Have you ever heard a whisper echo in the dead of night, curling around your spine like a cold, skeletal finger? Picture yourself beneath towering pines, their branches creaking like ancient hinges, the moonlight barely piercing the tangled undergrowth. In that suffocating hush, a story stirs, one told by trembling lips beside a dying hearth, passed through centuries of fear and fascination. Tonight, we step beyond the edge of reason and into the realm of Baba Yaga, the crone of Slavic legend who lingers somewhere between nightmare and prophecy. Long before she made her way into modern tales of monster hunters, Baba Yaga prowled the fringes of Russian forests, an enigma wrapped in rags and half-mad laughter. They say her hair is as white as the first frost, her eyes burning like embers in the dark. Villagers spoke of her hut perched on chicken legs, a grotesque sentinel that could spin like a windmill to face its visitor, or protect its master from unwanted guests. Imagine that hut swiveling quietly behind you, its door slipping shut with a hollow thud just as you realize you're not alone. Some claimed they heard it rustle through the woods, hunting them as much as Baba Yaga herself. What drove people to seek her out? At first glance, she is the stuff of cautionary tales, the witch who devours children, the hag who flies by night in a mortar, wielding her pestle like a scythe. But peel back another layer, and you find a guardian of thresholds, life and death, youth and age, knowledge and oblivion. Mothers whispered of her when they wanted to scare children into good behavior. But wise folk and cunning seekers knew that a bold petition to the crone could grant impossible favors, a cure for a wasting illness, the secrets of the forest's hidden paths, even a glimpse of what lies beyond the grave. It was said that only the bravest, or most desperate, would dare to confront her. One traveler, heart pounding like a war drum, found himself standing before the chicken-legged hut as dawn's first light trembled through the trees. He carried tokens, a mirror to trick her, 3 drops of wolf's blood to ward off sorcery, a handful of salt to purify the way. The wind moaned through the pines, and he could swear the hut quivered in anticipation. Inside, Baba Yaga hunched over her cauldron, stirring memories as much as brews, her gaze flicking to the door with terrifying patience. He spoke his wish in a voice thick as mud, and for a heartbeat, the world fell silent, until she cackled, her laughter peeling the bark from the trees. Yet, not all who crossed her path left broken. A poet once sought her blessing, yearning for words that would dance like fire on the page. He arrived empty-handed, save for his hunger for inspiration. Baba Yaga listened as he confessed to his doubts, tracing a finger through the ash of her hearth. Then she whispered a verse, a line so haunting that the poet's quill burned through parchment that very night. His poems became legends, but he paid the price. Every time he recalled her words, he felt a chill settle in his bones, as if a portion of his soul had been borrowed and never returned. And as the darkness deepens, the third mystery reveals itself. In the whispered lore that threads through Russian villages, Baba Yaga is more than a solitary witch. She is the living pulse of the forest, the echo of ancient rites that predate even the oldest churches. They say her footsteps leave no mark, but the trees she passes lean closer, their roots stirring as though they wake from slumber. Hunters speak of their hounds falling silent, noses flicking at invisible trails. Ashen footprints appear overnight on the banks of still ponds, leading only to empty mire. And then, when dawn sheds its pale gown, the prints vanish without a trace, leaving behind only a sense of wrongness that tightens the throat. Rumors whisper of a childless couple who wandered too far while gathering mushrooms. They stumbled on a sunken clearing where mushrooms glowed like embers, uncannily out of place among the decay. As they reached to collect them, the forest fell still. Leaves froze mid-fall. A voice drifted on the stagnant air, soft as a lullaby but bearing a weight that made their blood congeal. They followed the sound until they saw her hut, its chicken legs draped in pale mist. They tried to flee, but the woman's petrifying eyes met theirs through the crooked window. In that instant, the mushrooms fell silent, their glow dimming to nothing. When the couple awoke, they were safe on the forest's edge, but their son, who had ventured ahead, was gone. Only a single mushroom remained at the spot where she'd taken him, its cap black as a raven's wing. And then there are those who claim Baba Yaga may yet walk among us, far from the depths of untamed forests. In the shadow of crumbling monasteries, scholars discovered cryptic manuscripts that spoke of a witch hunter, not unlike the witchers of legend, who bore the mark of an iron gauntlet and wielded runes older than language itself. They hunted beasts of the wild, they said, but what if their greatest quarry was the witch who transcends death? Some believe the Witcher's order learned from Baba Yaga's rituals, borrowing the mortar and pestle as alchemical tools. Others argue these rumors are nothing but clever propaganda spun by monks eager to vilify the wilderness. And as the darkness deepens, the third mystery reveals itself. And as the darkness deepens, the third mystery reveals itself in the farthest reaches of a winter-stricken glade. Imagine moonlight glinting off frost-kissed branches as you come upon a circle of stones, each carved with runes that pulse like veins of ice. Here, villagers once left offerings of bread and honey to appease Baba Yaga's hunger for reverence, believing that without her nod, the snows would swallow their homes. One hunter, drawn by tales of glowing fungi that sprouted only under her blessing, ventured to pluck the rare caps beneath that silent sky. No sooner had he lifted one into his palm than the air turned to glass, brittle and unyielding, and the hush grew so absolute he could hear his own pulse hammering. When he dared to flee, he found the mushrooms gone, and in their place a single raven's feather, heavy with frost, pointing him back toward the forest's heart. Just one misstep toward the abandoned castle, and that restless spirit appears to those foolish enough to believe in clean escapes. The castle's crumbling ramparts loom like jagged teeth above a valley choked with mist. They say a solitary figure in tattered shawls drifts through its vaulted halls, murmuring riddles in a tongue no living soul can decipher. An intrepid scholar once set up camp in the great hall, convinced that a lost grimoire lay hidden beneath the rubble. By candlelight, he traced symbols he thought might be protective wards, yet as he inscribed the last, the shadows around him took shape. They leaned in, their forms jagged, as if sculpted from nightmares, and a voice rasped behind him, "Knowledge is a debt you cannot repay." When dawn's first glow stole through the shattered windows, he was gone, leaving the manuscript half written on his desk and footprints etched in mold on the floor. There is also the tale of the weaver's daughter, who bore a beauty so luminous it rivaled the moon. Jealous neighbors whispered that only a witch could bless her with such radiance, and soon the girl fell ill, her cheeks hollowed by fevered dreams. In desperation, her mother carried her deep into the woods, past groves of birch that shivered at every breath of wind, until they stood before the hut's swivel door. Heart pounding like a war drum, the mother cried out for mercy, offering the one treasure she possessed, a pendant carved from amber, warm as blood in winter. The door spun open with a groan that sounded like bones scraping, and the hag appeared, her eyes twin coals of ancient hunger. Yet, instead of fury, there was a flicker of pity. In her cracked voice, she wove a healing chant, her pestle stirring the air until it hummed. The girl awoke at dawn, her fever gone, but her eyes held a hollow glow that turned deeper with every passing night. Some say she still wanders the woods, a silent sentinel, gathering lost souls to illuminate her empty gaze. And as the darkness deepens, the third mystery reveals itself in the form of a mirror, darkened and silvered, said to have been forged in the flame of a dying star. They claimed that if you peered into it by candle's end, you would glimpse the face of your doom, or perhaps the face of Baba Yaga herself, smiling with too many teeth. A merchant, arrogant and dismissive of old wives' tales, displayed such a mirror in his shop, scoffing as children trembled at its corner display. One night, locked inside after hours, he decided to test fate. He struck a match, igniting a flare of light that danced on the glass. For a breathless moment, he saw his reflection, then it contorted. Deep in the hushed corridors of a forgotten monastery, monks once chronicled a final encounter with the crone that defies every mortal expectation. They spoke of a night when the walls themselves bled shadows, and the chanting candles twisted in the draught as though alive. A novice, trembling beneath his cassock, claimed he saw Baba Yaga's reflection in a blackened reliquary, her face contorted between youth and decay. Before the others could intervene, she whispered his name in a voice like the rustle of dead leaves, and he vanished, leaving behind only the echo of his scream and a single rosary bead scorched by unearthly flame. From this monastery we wander back into the dense woodland, where the canopy closes like a mausoleum vault and each breath tastes of damp earth and ancient secrets. Here, they say, beneath a tangle of oak roots, lies a well that leads not to water, but to echoes of the past, a place where the souls of those who dared bargain with Baba Yaga drift in restless murmurs. Travelers who stumble upon its moss-covered stones report voices calling from its depths, pleas for mercy, laughter that mourns, and sometimes the gentle crooning of a mother singing her lost child to sleep. One hunter, drawn by a promise carved on an iron ring, found deep in a wolf's den, leaned over the lip and heard a whisper, "Drink, and you shall remember everything you ever forgot." He recoiled with a gasp and fled, but they found him days later at the forest's edge, eyes rolled back, singing lullabies in a tongue that had died centuries ago. And yet, perhaps the most chilling tale is the one that survives in the trembling accounts of border guards who patrol the vast expanse between Russia's wild north and the silent steppes. On moonless nights, they say, a figure glides across the frozen tundra, her mortar dragging ice like a rasp across bone. She collects the warmth of travelers' hearts, leaving them stiff as statues beneath the northern lights. A patrol once pursued the figure for miles, their sleds cutting through talc-white drifts, until they cornered her near a skeletal copse of pines. She smiled, revealing teeth that gleamed like shards of obsidian, and offered them a choice: follow her into the north to claim frozen treasures, or return home to find their families touched by silent cold. They chose to chase the treasure, their shouts swallowed by the wind, and their bodies were found days later, seated in a perfect circle around her hut, eyes open, frozen smiles etched on their faces as if in rapture. All these stories thread together like a tapestry of dread and wonder, each strand a testament to the crone's dominion over both life's twilight and its first breath. From the hunched hut on chicken legs to the silent crossroads beneath gibbous moons, Baba Yaga stands as both trickster and arbiter, rewarding courage with curses, granting gifts by exacting grim tolls. She is the threshold guardian, the keeper of transition, and as such, she honors no single code but her own inscrutable will. Would you dare explore further? Would you venture beyond the brittle edge where night folds into dawn, and offer her your own whispered secret? Perhaps you carry tokens without knowing, an heirloom mirror, a knot of black yarn, a spell half remembered from childhood tales. Imagine approaching her hut, feeling the ground tremble beneath her slow rotation, the sense of eyes upon you before you reach the door. You offer your plea, and in that instant, time splinters, moments stretch into centuries, and you glimpse not one destiny, but many. If you're brave enough to wander more medieval shadows, Hit subscribe and join the fellowship of the bold and the damned. Share your deepest fear in the comments. Perhaps it will echo back to you through branches at midnight, or manifest in footprints beyond the hearth. And when you close your eyes tonight, listen for the sigh of wings in the rafters, the skitter of unseen paws on the moss. Sleep well tonight, but don't turn off the lights.